Welcome to this explainer. Look, we're skipping all the fluff today, completely bypassing the usual long intros, and we're just going to dive straight into a genuinely mind-bending astrophysics reality about your birthday. Yeah, your birthday. Today, we're breaking down the literal science of time, digging up some deeply hidden history, and exploring a profound theological perspective on why celebrating the exact same date every single year might actually make zero sense.
So, I gotta ask, does your exact birthday actually exist? I mean, we all celebrate turning a year older on a fixed calendar date, right? We mark our calendars, we buy the expensive cake, and we just wait for that one specific day to roll around. But if you look at this astronomically and astrophysically speaking, the universe says that repeating date is a total illusion. The cosmos literally does not care about our neat little 365-day grid. And here's why. 7 billion kilometers. Our solar system isn't just sitting still in space, it's hurtling through the Milky Way galaxy at this completely staggering speed. We are traveling about 7 billion kilometers every single year. Because Earth's orbit is elliptical, the moon's orbit is constantly shifting, and the whole solar system is constantly on the move, the Earth literally never returns to the exact same spot in space twice. Ever. The universe is in a state of constant, non-repeating flux.
Now, if you actually try to pin down your true astronomical birthday, well, things get absurd really quickly. Track it by the seasons, that's the tropical calendar, and you get our standard 365 days. But it requires these totally artificial leap years just to keep the math working. Track the distant stars with a sidereal calendar, and your birthday actually drifts 20 minutes later every single year. Prefer the moon? The Metonic cycle shows your exact lunar birthday only aligns every 19 years. And hey, if you want to track the sun's orbit around the galaxy, you'd be waiting about 225 million years for your galactic birthday. So depending on which cosmic calendar you look at, your true birthday is always a moving target. Honestly, our fixed date is nothing more than an artificial human construct just slapped over a chaotic, ever-expanding universe.
Section 1. The Dark Pagan History. Where did this rigid tradition actually come from? Because, surprise, birthdays didn't start out as these innocent, joyful parties with bouncy castles. The tradition actually began in ancient Egypt, and it wasn't for normal people. It was used to celebrate pharaohs on the day they were crowned, which marked the exact moment a human supposedly transformed into a literal god. Then, the ancient Greeks borrowed this idea. They started baking these round, moon-shaped cakes and lighting candles to mimic the glowing moon, all to honor Artemis, the moon goddess. The smoke from the candles was meant to carry their prayers up to the heavens. Sound familiar? That is literally the direct origin of blowing out birthday candles. Fast forward to ancient Rome, and they started celebrating the birthdays of regular men. But why? To appease a personal guardian spirit known as a genius or a Juno, hoping for another year of protection. And honestly, the creepy part is that the traditions we consider fun today were originally rooted in pure fear and superstition. Ancient cultures deeply believed that the anniversary of your birth was a day of extreme spiritual vulnerability. You were basically a magnet for the evil eye or demonic attacks. So you know how we gather a bunch of friends together to sing loudly? Yeah, that wasn't originally about joy. It was protective magic. Loud noises and big crowds were specifically designed to confuse and scare away demons when a person was deemed to be spiritually weak. Throw in the astrological practice of recording the exact birth time to cast horoscopes and try to control fate, and you start to realize these traditions have some incredibly dark polytheistic roots.
Moving right along to Section 2, the birthday industrial complex, hyperconsumerism and psychological conditioning. Because let's be real, the modern birthday is no longer about the individual anyway. It has morphed into this highly engineered, multi-billion-dollar global industry. Greeting card companies, toy manufacturers, event venues, they have all successfully commodified a totally natural milestone. These massive corporate entities basically manufacture an artificial need. They condition children from a super young age to equate feeling loved and valued with material spending. They've essentially figured out how to turn a human life into a recurring annual revenue stream. And how exactly do they enforce this? Through the absolute weaponization of FOMO, the fear of missing out. Media and cartoons deliberately push narratives where any character who doesn't have a big birthday party is immediately portrayed as a friendless, lonely loser. It's wild, but this is a super powerful form of social engineering and psychological manipulation. It enforces cultural conformity. It's basically telling kids that to be normal, to be loved, you absolutely must participate in this specific consumerist ritual. It isolates and ostracizes anyone who might want to opt out, heavily pressuring them to just adopt these secular norms simply to avoid being alienated.
So what's the alternative? Let's dive into Section 3,
The Islamic view of time, escaping the artificial grid. Just think about how we track time for a second. The solar calendar tries to artificially trap time in a repeating loop, right? It literally locks the Earth into this rigid seasonal grid. But the Islamic lunar calendar is entirely different. By relying purely on the moon, it naturally drifts backward through the seasons, completing a full cycle about every 33 years. So unlike the solar calendar, the Islamic calendar actually embraces cosmic motion. It forces you to experience your dates in every single possible seasonal alignment throughout your lifetime. It's an amazing acknowledgement that the universe is in constant flux, and that spiritual significance isn't just tied to the Earth's physical position relative to the sun. Furthermore, Islam views time strictly as a one-way arrow. See, a lot of ancient cultures view time as a cyclical wheel, where you celebrate an anniversary to sort of magically return to the start. But Islam teaches that time is purely linear. It is a depleting resource of accountability. You are born, you live, you die. That makes the whole idea of returning to celebrate the exact day you were born both physically impossible, because, again, we live in a constantly moving universe, and spiritually contrary to the core concept of always moving forward toward ultimate accountability.
Because of those pagan origins we just uncovered and these really deep spiritual contradictions, Islamic jurisprudence actually advises against modern birthday celebrations. First off, there's shirk. Honoring a guardian spirit or using candles and singing as a form of protective magic completely contradicts Tawheed, which is pure monotheism. Next is tashabuhu, which means imitating the distinct religious rituals of non-believers. And finally, bid'ah, which is unauthorized religious innovation. I mean, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions lived in a world where Greco-Roman birthdays literally existed all around them, yet they never once adopted them.
This all builds into a really crucial protective principle. There's a renowned prophetic statement, whoever imitates a people is one of them, and that perfectly captures why Muslims are heavily warned against blindly adopting these practices. Look, it's not about just avoiding joy. It's about recognizing that if a tradition's foundational roots are literally planted in the worship of false gods and demons, you probably shouldn't just slap a modern coat of paint on it and call it harmless fun. Which brings us to Section 4, honoring life the right way. Gratitude over consumerism. So if you aren't throwing a loud party with a massive cake and candles, what do? Well, there is a very clear prophetic alternative. When the Prophet Muhammad was asked about fasting on Mondays, he acknowledged that it was the day of his birth and the day he first received revelation. Notice what he did there. He didn't demand gifts, he didn't seek external validation. He showed us that the ultimate, truest way to honor your life is through pure gratitude to the Creator, by fasting, giving charity, or making sincere prayers, rather than getting all caught up in some materialistic annual spectacle.
And on a much broader societal level, under the systemic framework of a khilafah, this specific mindset is actively protected. Society is structured to ensure the protection of the intellect, known as hifz al-aql. This shields children from the toxic consumer's deception that tells them they absolutely need a party to be loved. Instead, authentic belonging is found year-round in the global ummah. The media is regulated to actually prevent hyper-consumers' manipulation, and society elevates true, deeply meaningful milestones, like the 2 Eids, the Aqiqah for a newborn, or a child memorizing the Quran.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. The universe is in a constant, beautiful state of flux. The Earth, the Sun, and the Moon will literally never be in the exact same position they were the moment you took your first breath. Never again. Knowing that every single day is an entirely unique, unrepeatable cosmic event, and knowing that time is a one-way arrow, the real question isn't what random calendar date you were born on. The real question is, what will you present to your Creator before your time runs out? Seriously, how will you use your arrow of time today?